The Chicago Bulls are arguably the biggest winner of this NBA offseason thus far, and at the very least, they're one of the teams making the most noise. Man, I never thought I'd be saying this. That was cathartic. The team added Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, and Tony Bradley, in the process losing just Thaddeus Young, Tomas Satoransky, Garrett Temple, Al-Farouq Aminu, a top 10 protected future first, and 2 seconds. And just Thad and maybe that first round pick is really the only loss here that is even kind of consequential. I'm not losing sleep over losing Garrett Temple and Tomas Satoransky, especially not Al-Farouq Aminu. Now, for those that might not be aware, I am a Chicago Bulls fan, so I kind of look for an excuse to talk about the Bulls on this channel anytime that I can. So with that being said, with the Chicago Bulls being actually newsworthy, I'm gonna fucking talk about it. So let's do it. Let's go. Start the intro. Before I continue on with this video, about half of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you fall in that 50%, then please subscribe. Also drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. I am trying to hit 200K on this channel, so I'd appreciate your subscription. Did I say that already? I don't know, but I mean it. Subscribe, bitch. That was mean. So first things first, let's talk about these new players and what their addition means for the team. Lonzo Ball to the Bulls is something that I have been talking about for the last 2+ years now. I have wanted this guy in a Bulls uniform for a very long time, so seeing him finally in Chicago is very satisfying to me. Rudy, can you edit a screenshot of my video about the 2019 draft where I suggested the Bulls take Lonzo? Yeah, you can find it. It's in my media on Twitter if you can't find it yourself. Lonzo brings playmaking, defense, and really good three-point shooting. And yes, I did say really good three-point shooting because some casual fans don't seem to have caught up on this. But over the last 2 years with the Pelicans and 118 games, he shot 37.6% from three on 7 attempts per game. On that high of a volume, that is bordering on elite shooting splits. Probably even is elite shooting splits. So yeah, Lonzo's a damn good three-point shooter. He will be the primary guard defender on this team, which is going to make Zach LaVine's life easier, as he's had to defend the opposing team's best perimeter player pretty much every time, and it's not really what Zach is made for. Playmaking-wise, he should be amazing on the break. He'll have Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and, often unmentioned, Patrick Williams as targets on the break, so there'll be plenty of lobs thrown this year, I'm sure. His half-court offense and playmaking isn't quite as good, just simply because he's not great at penetrating and getting to the rim, but he's still an above-average playmaker in that regard, and at the very least, he's capable of finding the open man pretty much every time, even if he's not creating as many opportunities as you would like. And as minimal as just finding the open man might be, if you're a Chicago Bulls fan, you would know that that's a threshold that's often not passed, at least last year that was. So he's going to be an average playmaker in the half court, a fantastic one on the break. He's going to be one of the better defensive players in the league, and specifically defensive perimeter players, and that's really going to give Zach LaVine a break on defense. And he is a lethal three-point shooter, so that's just everything every team needs, really. He is just a seamless fit with this team. Now, as for DeMar, while he is obviously a better player than Lonzo Ball, he is definitely a little bit worse of a fit just by virtue of the fact that he is not a three-point shooter, and that's just kind of how it goes in the NBA. If you're a perimeter player that doesn't shoot the three, your fit is going to be a little bit awkward on pretty much every NBA team. That being said, amongst the awkward fits, DeMar and the Bulls might be the best of the awkward fits, because with DeMar, you specifically have to worry about floor spacing, with the Chicago Bulls in their starting lineup have 4 really good floor spacers. Lonzo is a great shooter. Zach is one of the best shooters in the NBA and is seldom credited for that because there are so many people that still think he's just a fucking dunk contest guy. Patrick Williams is solid at catch and shoots. Granted, his volume is so low that he's not the greatest. And Vooch shot 40% from 3 on 6 attempts a game for all of last season. DeMar couldn't really ask for much better floor spacing to accommodate his lack of an outside shot. Now, the fact that he can't shoot the 3 is going to be a little bit awkward when Lonzo and Zach Lavine have the ball in their hands, which is going to happen plenty. But when DeMar has the ball in his hands, no one's going to really interrupt what he's trying to do. But DeMar's playmaking actually excites me even more so than the 20-plus point scoring potential that he has on this team, because his playmaking is more valuable in the half-court set than Lonzo Ball's, because he, of course, is one of the better slashers in the NBA. So DeMar is going to provide rim pressure that will make the Bulls' offense more elite. He's, of course, going to have that mid-range shot creating ability, and his playmaking is going to put pressure on the defense while he drives to the rim. So really, it's just more playmaking, more pressure on the defense, more shot creation. What more can you ask for? DeMar's addition to this team pushes the Bulls from decent at rim pressure to really good, from bad at playmaking to now decent with Lonzo to probably great with DeMar DeRozan, and the shot creation from decent to probably really, really good. So that's huge. Do I love paying DeMar $28 million a year? Do I love the fact that Thad Young, who's really good, as well as a first-round pick, was traded for him? Not really, but I definitely think his addition to this team has elevated this team rather significantly in terms of what its floor and its ceiling can be. For this roster as a whole, I'd like to see them run a rotation that has Lonzo and Zach together while DeMar and Vooch sit, and then vice versa. Zach and Lonzo can play with the backup 5, Tony Bradley, who's a non-3-point shooter, and it won't really affect the team's spacing, but if you're pairing DeMar in minutes with Tony Bradley, the spacing could get pretty ugly. So I think it's the logical decision that you put Vucevic out there with DeMar, and then you put Tony Bradley out there with Lavine and Lonzo, and that ends up being the duos that you go to. And I think the fact that your offense will at worst be Lonzo and Lavine, or at worst be DeMar and Nikola Vucevic, that is such a high bar for like the worst your offense can be. This offense is going to be really fucking good. Also, I think that DeMar's playmaking pairs a little bit better with Vucevic than if you did Zach and Vucevic, and I think DeMar and Vuce would play better off of each other than DeMar and Zach would. I think I think Lonzo and Vooch could potentially play a little bit. I don't know. You get what I'm fucking saying. I'm going into fucking so many different potential things here. I think what I said is the right way to go, but what do I fucking know? Depth-wise, Alex Caruso is worth his contract, and I'm so fucking tired of people saying he's not. $8 to $9 million a year for one of the best defensive guards in the league, a capable three-point shooter, and a really scrappy hustle player. That's pretty much what his value is. Maybe like $1 million per year more, but like, what are we gonna fucking cry over that? Not to mention he can play both guard spots. Speaking of that, his addition, along with DeMar, who can obviously play really 1 through 3, kind of makes Kobe White expendable. I mean, I already thought Kobe White was expendable, but the amount of guard and perimeter and shot creation play that this team already has kind of makes Kobe White essentially pointless. Not necessarily that he can't make a contribution, but more so that there is a player that could fill his roster spot that is more compatible and more necessary to what the Bulls currently have going than what Kobe White brings to the table. I would much rather see a defensive-minded player, specifically a wing, who can shoot the 3 ball rather than a Kobe White. Even if Kobe White is not a bad player, as much shit as I give him, his fit makes even less sense now with the Bulls than it already did. Troy Brown Jr. is still here. I'll be real, I really like Troy Brown Jr., but his lack of an outside shot concerns me for this team because, like, rotation-wise, you can't really play him much with Tony Bradley or DeMar DeRozan, and at that point, how many minutes is there really available for him? His three-point shot is not non-existent, but it's about as good as it can be without it being non-existent. So because of this, some additions are going to need to be made for depth. They just signed Tony Bradley, and I think they needed a defensive-minded run, jump, and dunk rebound center to come off the bench. I think that's exactly what he is, so that's a good addition. He can play just pretty much all of the minutes that Vucevic doesn't, so like, I don't know, 14, 16 minutes a game, something like that. Now, there is a sign-and trade that's still like working out the agreement of it between the Houston Rockets and the Bulls right now for Daniel Tice. I would have love to keep Daniel Tice, but for the money the Rockets gave him, absolutely not. But I'd like to see where, on top of the trade exception that the Bulls will likely get out of the deal, if they could also get Daniel House, who is a really cheap 3-and-D wing, to be a backup on this team, I think that would really be good for this rotation. He can play both forward spots, good shooter, passable defender, sometimes takes too many shots, but I'll live with that consequence. And I think that would be nice to get in exchange for Daniel Tice on top of that trade exception. Or you could pair that trade exception along with Lauri Markkanen, assign a trade with him, and potentially get some sort of defensive wing out of that. Though the specific move I do not know. Really, Lauri as well as Kobe White, I believe, should be traded just to add depth and defensive talent to this team. And the specific moves I'm not clear on, but that's the direction that I would go in. But if you can get Daniel House out of the Daniel Tice trade, I think that would be really cool, because I think he could be a 20-minute rotational wing, and that's something that the Bulls need right now. As for my prediction for this team this season, I could see the Bulls being anywhere from like as high as the 3 seed to the 8th seed. Really, it's just a matter of how the fit works, and the Bulls have historically pretty much always disappointed me, so I want to be careful about giving them high expectations. That being said, the talent is here. I think the fit is here even, and the coaching is decent. The talent is very clear. It's a matter of depth. It's a matter of their overall defense, which I think can be decent this year, but it's not really going to be great. So yeah, I think there is quite a bit of potential with this team to be one of the better teams in the conference, but at the same time, at this point, the Bulls have made me just expect the worst. What I am pretty confident in is that, barring injury being a factor, the Chicago Bulls should be in the playoffs next year for sure. But I do want to add this just at the very end here, that regardless of the individual moves, really what I walk away from with this offseason, though there's still some stuff left to be done, I'm just really happy that the Bulls are doing things, and not just doing things, doing a lot of things. Something that I can tell you that was most frustrating about the Garpax era was that the Bulls did not act as though they were one of the biggest franchises in the sport, which they are. Like, there is a huge difference between what a small market and a large market can do in the NBA, which is a problem. But so long as that problem exists and that problem favors my team, I would like them to take advantage of the advantage that they have as a large market. And finally, we're seeing the Chicago Bulls do that under their new regime with Arturas Karnisovas as well as Mark Eversley. And I just have to say, I appreciate both of those guys for what they've been doing. I did express some hesitance in Arturas in the past, just because I was like, hey, let's not just consider this guy to be the Messiah just because he isn't Garpax. But fuck it, dude's the Messiah. I don't care. Like, I'm just happy to see the Bulls aggressive. Like, even though I want Lonzo on the Bulls, like Lonzo and DeMar, it's not so much the individual players. Like, I've actually been lower on both of those guys in years past, but just to see the Bulls be aggressive, just to see the Bulls add real talent and do it in a way that suggests that they know what they're doing, that they're going to be aggressive, it just makes me so fucking happy. And I very much appreciate that from the front office of this team, and ultimately it just makes you realize how fucking garbage Garpax was. But anyways, that is it. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video. By the way, go subscribe to NBA Rudy on YouTube, because he is about to start a new NBA show called Hustle Points that is, I already know it's going to be very good, because Rudy is very talented. So go subscribe to him. His link is going to be in the description, and as soon as the first episode of that is out, you're going to be hearing about it from me. Anyways, that is it. Goodbye. I'm going to fucking talk about it, so let's do it. Let's go. Start the intro.